Halloween
Forever.
Steve, did you hear the one? Did you ever hear that about that Mexican serial killer on a train? You ever hear about that one? There was that big story. It was in the newspapers. You read the newspaper.
I don't read the newspaper.
I know he doesn't, guys. I know he doesn't read the newspaper. Nobody reads the newspaper. Yeah, there was this big story about a Mexican serial killer that was stalking people on trains. It was wild.
Oh.
Yeah, he had locomotives.
Oh, wow.
Welcome, boys and girls, to a fucking Minisode of Halloween is Forever. I'm Brian.
I'm Steve.
Locomotives?
I
Crazy,
get it.
but
Yeah.
also is a train.
Yeah, he's on a
The
train.
dog likes it. The dog likes it. The dog's like, fuck yeah, that's hilarious. Licking my legs. Get out of the way, dog. All right. Guys, we are here. Oh God, Ron's throwing out fucking train puns in the Discord here, guys. All right. Listen, keep them coming. We're going train. This is the train episode. I know the movie we're talking about has nothing to do with the train, but I say train thematics the whole way through. I should have put on my overalls. We are here once again on this very special fifth Monday. I love when there's a fifth Monday in the month, because then we just go buck wild. We just get weird, do something silly. In this instance, we got a lovely opportunity to do a listener suggestion. Love doing a listener suggestion. This is a movie that was not on my radar. Steve, spoiler alert, if you haven't clicked on the old linky link, if you didn't read it when you clicked on the podcast episode, we're going to be talking about 2020's Freaky, co-starring one Mr. Vince Vaughn. Was this a movie that was on your radar at all, Steve, prior to this? Besides the suggestion, of course.
I was aware of it, but it wasn't like something that really perked my interest. And I think just because like the first trailer I saw was something just like, it just turned me off. The first trailer I saw. Yeah. But I shouldn't have been so turned off, because it's a good movie. It's fun.
It was fun. Spoiler alert again, it was very fun. But this was not on my radar at all. When you said that, I was like, freaky, what the fuck is this? I looked up, it was like 2020. This just completely went over or under me. I just did not see anything about this in 2020. Obviously, we all had a lot of things going on in 2020. I knew nothing about it. But we're going to talk about it, and we've already revealed that it's kind of a fucking fun movie. Kind of a horror, not a kind of, very much a horror comedy. But guys, slow your roll. Slow your roll, shut your mouth. We got shit we got to do before we get into this actual movie. Some big time shit. We got some real big boy business we got to deal with here. First and foremost, let's do it out of order. Let's fuck it around here tonight. First of all, if you want to suggest topics for us, if you're like, hey, next time they got one of them silly old fifth Mondays in the month, I got a dumbass movie for them to watch, and you want to suggest it to us, the way you should do that is by following us on the social medias at Halloween is Forever or at Hallow Forever on Twitter, or emailing us halloweenisforeverpod@gmail.com, like this particular listener does. I don't know what the name of the listener was that suggested this. Forgive me. But I think maybe she mentioned that, Steve, you said she liked It's a Wonderful Knife, that movie or that episode we talked about, and then suggested this because one of the co-writers also co-wrote this. If you've got that type of situation where you go, aha, I have a movie for these dildos to talk about, get a hold of us on the social medias or the emails. If you like the show, you want to support the show, there's a couple of fucking things you can do. First of all, go over to your podcatcher app. This is a big one, and it's super easy. It takes about 5 seconds. All the podcasts I like, I do this with, because I'm a good person. All right? Don't be a dick. Go review us. This is how you get people to do stuff. You make them feel bad. You really just drill it into them. Go over to your podcatcher app, like your Spotify or Apple Podcasts. You go to the Halloween is Forever. You go to the show page. You scroll down. There's a thing. It says how many stars you give this. You give it all the stars. And then you write a little thing. And you got to write a little thing. And it says like, hey, these guys. All right. And that's it. And we very much appreciate that. If you do that and you want you can shoot us a DM and I will send you some motherfucking Halloween is Forever stickers. Come right to your damn mailbox, and then I'll know where you live. And then you're really in trouble. Then I'm going to mail you weird shit. Little dried up turds. They might be mine. Maybe they're an animal's. Who knows? Pictures of my foreskin, not my dick, just my foreskin. I'm going to send you all types of weird shit in the mail. I'm going to stretch it out really, really far, take a little tiny close-up snapshot of it, and then you're going to be like, what is that? What is that some sort? Is that food scraps? No, sir. That's my foreskin.
It's been detached, but it's also been saved. So,
yeah, if you would like for that to have, what's that little piece of gristle there? If you like that sort of thing, yes, exactly, Dan. That's what I'm doing. I'm trying to appeal to a broad range of people: weirdos with a foreskin fetish, people who like to be demeaned, all the big buckets of podcast listeners. And do it for us. We appreciate that, and I'll send you some fucking stickers. If you want to be here with us in the Discord with some of our friends that are watching us record this live and chiming in and putting their 2 cents and silly fun quips and things like that in the chat, you could be doing that too. If you weren't fucking around. Steve, how would you do a thing like that? How would you get into this here Discord?
But instead of fucking around and not being in the Discord, you jump on patreon.com/Halloween is Forever, and then you can jump on, you get talked to about the same way, we're talking about Ron and Dan. They're popping in, they're chiming in, they're watching the episode happen live. And that could be you if you join the Patreon as well, because then you get access to our Discord. You could be in the chat. I'll talk to you in the chat while Brian just rambles on and on and on and on, as
Chug Spears. I never check the chat. I probably could easily. I'm sure it's just a drop down menu. I don't do it. I'm getting drunk. So Steve moderates the chat.
Yeah.
Tells me when somebody says something. Yes. And then I see so Dan said one little thing and I could see the first 3 words. Now, if I was smart, I'm sure I could. There it is. I just expanded the entire chat. I can see what everybody does.
Now
We've been doing this for a year. This is the first time I did that. I'm a fucking buffoon.
But yeah, you can be a part of all of this. And on top of that, you get a monthly exclusive podcast. And right now, we're at the tail end of our first series that we've done, which is Family is Forever, where I make Brian watch all of the Fast and the Furious films because he's never seen any of them and he hates them. And it's hilarious.
Yeah. Yep. They suck really bad. If you like them, you have a smooth fish brain. We've talked about this a lot. But talking about them is genuinely very fun. So I would suggest you get on over there. And also, we've got a little thing happening, right? Where now that we're on the 10th Fast and the Furious movie, the next kind of Patreon exclusive podcast project that we take on is going to fall into your boys' corner in terms of what we're going to choose. So I've got a couple things that I'm considering. I've been delving into the strange world of right-wing evangelical Christian horror propaganda films, which is fun. And I like the idea, but I also have been dabbling with the idea, and actually Dan and I've been conspiring on IG as well, is we might just take this whole path down one of Steve's favorite movies, which is of course RoboCop for longtime listeners, but then go the whole way down the path of all the horrible. Not all of them are horrible, but it gets pretty bad in the in the RoboCop franchise, and all the other various RoboCop media that is not the original RoboCop. So I'm thinking about that. We're up in the air. We're up in the air. If you
can I add something to this? And I'm just wondering if you had found it in your research, because I guess if you're gonna do RoboCop, in your research of doing the RoboCop thing, you found obviously there's Canadian made films and there's cartoons, but are you aware of the crowd? I don't want to say funded, but it's almost an art project.
Yeah.
Called Our RoboCop Remake.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm a little familiar.
Okay.
I'm a little familiar. I have not seen it, but I have
okay.
The Reddits have informed me a little bit
Good.
about it.
All right.
Okay. So I don't know a lot about it, but it is on my radar. Let's put it that way.
Great. Good that you're aware of it. I think that's a good way. If you go down the route and we decide to do RoboCop series, I think that's a good way to wrap it up.
Yeah.
Is like if we start with the original RoboCop film and then do our RoboCop remake as the tail end for that one. But
yeah, you want to hear so this is petty of me, but here's my concern. We're doing 10 Fast and the Furious movies.
Right.
And when Dan and I were chatting, it was today or yesterday or whatever, we were talking about, that's like, all these movies are most of them are 2+ hours long.
Sure, yeah.
Some of them are 2 minutes and 20 minutes long.
Yeah.
Times 10 movies.
Yeah.
Even if it's just a median runtime of 2 hours, you're still fucking around and ruining 20 hours of my life. Right.
Yeah.
And it's more than that because it's all the hours leading up to me dreading watching it. So for me to only throw at you like maybe 5 movies and a little bit of a animated series, I'm like, I feel like I'm getting my money's worth. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'll also say, like, I already told you, one, I like the original.
Yeah.
I've already said.
As do I. Who doesn't like it? If somebody doesn't like RoboCop, they're not to be trusted.
Exactly. But I also kind of like the second one for some parts.
Yeah, well, that's why I said all the rest. When I almost said all the rest of them are trash, I was like, that's not true. The second one's actually good. And I think I like the second one and the third one. I know you hate the third one. I kind of think it's fun.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of fun. The second one is obviously a significant downgrade from the first. So this is the thing, is like, it's not bad enough.
No,
that's
it's not
part
bad
of
enough.
The reason too. I want it, and that's why I'm hoping some of this tertiary RoboCop media is really trash, but I haven't gotten to delve into it yet.
It's trash, but like there's a charm to the Canadian ones, and the other part of it is I've seen almost all of it at this point, so it's not it's not like the Fast series where you haven't seen any of them. I'm not going to be shocked by any of this. I'm just going to be reliving it and going, yeah, that's pretty bad.
I know. I just, again, I haven't come up with the perfect thing yet.
I'm on board that the Christian stuff is going to be bad. That's going to be bad.
Yes, I agree. I really like the Christian horror movie idea, but the problem is then I am just torturing myself too. And what I want is for something to hurt you more than it hurts me. And that's tough because you just have a stronger stomach for this type of thing than me on average, I think. So, guys, it's coming to crunch time. We got to figure it out. Please, if you've got suggestions for something that's really stupid, hopefully it doesn't have to be 10 movies, but maybe it's a franchise, maybe it's a director, maybe it's just something that you're like, this is so much worse than you realize. Please. And it doesn't even have to be horror. Again, we're doing fucking Fast and Furious. But so I've come up with some ideas. Nothing has really nailed it down for me. I have about a 5-hour drive on Friday that I'm just planning on just like, this is my time to figure this out, right? This is my time to really get the old brain juices flowing and try to figure this out. All right. But if you want to be part of this, if you want to come into the old Discord, if you want to get some other fun reviews and extra votes on the monthly polls for what movies we do for a showdown episode, all that stuff, you got to go to patreon.com/Halloween is forever. You sign up for that $5 rascal tier, and then you can be an official rascal. You can come over and hang out with us and do all this dumb fun stuff. Let's get into the showdown episode as well. Actually, you know what? Let's do a beer. Let's do our beer here first. Steve, what do you? I always make you go first. How about I'll go first this time? I always make you go first when it's just the two of us. I am doing a beer from a brewery that's not going to be surprising, but a beer that might be surprising for you. I don't know if you heard of this Burgers Brewing Company here in beautiful Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. They got a location out here near me. I drink their beers all the fucking time. In fact, I have been accused of just riding their dick constantly because the only beers that I drink on the show are like fucking Keystone Light and theirs. But here's the thing. I'm at a place in my kind of beer journey, if you will, where I know what I like and I don't venture too far out. And shame on me for that being the case, but that's kind of where I'm at. Also, I will mention I'm on a little bit of a weight loss kick here. So I'm down about 20 pounds, which I'm feeling pretty good about. I'm trying to lose another 20 pounds. So I'm on a bit of a weight loss kick. I've been exercising. So I haven't been drinking a ton of beers, except for like maybe I'll pick a night a week and go, hey, Joe Bob's on, right? I'm going to get all forked up, right? And drink myself 10 beers, which I'll do, right? But for the most part, throughout the week, I'm not drinking a bunch of beers. But Burgers is close. And here's the thing. And I've actually been to more breweries in the last like probably 6 weeks than I have in the last 2 years combined, because I just have other stuff going on at events and shit. There's a lot of breweries that suck ass, just suck ass royally. And I hate it. And I'm sorry to say it, but good God, breweries that shouldn't suck, that do suck. Or it's just like, hey, when you buy one of their beers, it's a coin flip that it's going to be fucking drinkable and not a fucking diacetyl bomb or another, just some horribly made beer. And when I find a brewery that makes consistently really great beer, I'm going to fuck with them, especially if they just happen to be like one of the closest breweries to my house. So that's why I drink Burgers beer all the time. In any case, I am drinking something a little weird here that you might not expect. I will say I just chugged a Pils, a Deutschtown Pils, which are their German Pils, which is fantastic before this. But I am drinking, Steve, it's a hazy India Pale Ale.
Oh my gosh.
Called Nickelodeon. And I went over to get some beer today. I grabbed some 4-packs and was talking to my dude down there who's a server, has been there for a long time. And I said, what's the deal? Because I texted Neil, who's the owner and brewer, and I said, what I got to come get? Because I know I'm going to get my Pils, I know I'm going to get my Helles, and I know they got a Doppelbock that's tremendous that I've been drinking on draft. So I'll grab a 4-pack of that. I said, what else do I need to get? What else do I not know about on here that I need to get? He didn't answer me because he was jerking off or whatever, acting like he's working. But my dude at the bar said they just canned Nickelodeon today. Go grab yourself some of that. So I grabbed a 4-pack of it, and it's fucking banger. It's fantastic. It is like dank strawberry candy, pink lemonade, and fucking like I don't know, just like strawberry. What it smells like is strawberry Mentos candy.
Oh wow!
Mixed with like weed and pink lemonade. It smells fucking tremendous. It smells fucking tremendous. It's like there's definitely, like, as it warms up, there's a little bit more of that like mango papaya type of like overripe mango type of dankness in there, but and I don't even like a hazy IPA, but this is also 6.6%, so it's not that big, and it's fucking great. I mean, they just make good beer. So I've actually been fucking with some IPAs lately. I like IPAs. I usually don't fuck with the hazy IPAs that much, but you know what? Maybe it's that time of year. I don't know. This is fantastic.
It's supposed to be getting nicer out, but it isn't, because we're under a freeze watch today as we record.
I know. I'm going to a baseball game tomorrow night, and it's like I'm probably gonna wear a fucking winter coat.
Hell yeah.
Because it's going to be 49 degrees. But
what
are you drinking on?
It's funny because we're sort of synced up in that I'm also still drinking the same brewery that I drink all the time, like you. But mine is Abjuration. So I'm drinking Abjuration. But
listen, they make obviously good versions of those types of beers that you like.
Yeah.
Which is to say wacky shit.
Yeah.
So.
But.
Similar situation. Yeah.
We're on the same style.
Oh, all right.
Because I picked up their Pink Boots IPA.
Oh, yeah. I don't think I had any Pink Boots with whatever the Pink Boots hop blend is this year. I don't think I had any beers with it this year yet.
Yeah. So it's it's the Pink Boots blend. They also added Cryo Simcoe and more HBC 638, which is in the blend already. So it's like the experimental one. And then like there's Idaho 7 and El Dorado also in that blend. And another one that I've never heard of, I assume it's relatively new, but it's called Ottenham.
So Ottenham is an old school hop variety.
That's an old one. Okay.
Yeah. Ottenham is one of those like so sexy, so unsexy, nobody uses it anymore.
Okay.
Hop varieties, which I personally fucking love, those types of hop varieties that like nobody gives a shit about. Like I actually went on this is the kind of dildo I am. I went on a tear for a while where I was brewing single hop Pilsners. I was just doing my same Pilsner, German Pilsner, but I was doing single hop versions. And I did the same thing with my best bitter recipe. And I did an Ottenham one. I did a Challenger one. I did a Mount Hood one. Just like, these are the cheapest hops that like they can't give away because nobody gives a fuck about them.
Yeah. See, I remember Challenger and Mount Hood, especially Mount Hood, because Mount Hood always came in like when I first started home brewing. Mount Hood was always in like the porter and stout, pre-made kits.
Mount Hood is just Tettnang grown in the Pacific Northwest. So it is different, but it's a noble hop. It's basically they took a noble hop and said, let's put it in this, completely different, soil environment.
It has, the terroir. It's a Tettnang.
It has a little different terroir.
It has the
terroir of the Pacific Northwest. I'll tell you what, though. Here's how I got all boned up on this idea of doing unsexy hops. Do you remember? I think you and I have, or at least I've drank it on the podcast. You might have drank it at my house before, but Wiseacre's Tiny Bomb pills.
Okay,
you had Tiny Bomb from Wiseacre.
Yeah, I think I had it at your house.
100% Mount Hood.
Yeah. Okay.
It's like this aggressively hopped pills.
I didn't know that.
And everyone's and because I was talking to one of the brewers the one time when I was down in they're from Memphis, but I was in Nashville and I ran into one of the brewers there at an event when it was when CBC was in Nashville, and I said, this beer fucks, man. Like it's so good. And he was like, it's the most fucking weird recipe. And I was like, really? What is it? He was like, first of all, there's honey in it. He's like, this is like a 90s ass recipe. There's honey in it. He's like, but the honey lends some like floral perfumey stuff and it dries it out, makes it bone dry. He's like, and I was like, what's the hop variety? I said, it's like Tettnang, it's like Spalter, it's Saaz, whatever. He's like, nope, it's fucking all Mount Hood. I was like, bitch, please. And I was just blown away by it. And I love a single hop unsexy beers for that reason. Sorry, quite a tangent, but that's an interesting hop to grow. I imagine that was the bittering hop. They had some floating around for whatever reason and they threw it in for bittering. Maybe, I don't know. Who knows? It's a hazy IPA. They probably didn't have a bittering hop. It was probably just all late stuff, but that's an interesting one.
Well, yeah. Well, I assume like the Pink Boots was put in as like the kind of the main blend in the boil, and then I'm assuming because they listed HBC 638 again, that was probably used also for dry hopping.
Yeah,
so.
They probably whirlpooled the Pink Boots and dry hopped with. They probably didn't buy enough of the Pink Boots, so they added some extra HBC whatever the hell and Cryo Simcoe for dry hop. So.
Yeah.
That blend is always good. I always like the beers that they put together for that one. But I was just somewhere recently and they had the Pink Boots one, but I didn't give it a try.
Yeah, this one's fine enough. It doesn't have all those fun notes that you were talking about on your beer. This one is just much more of a like something you can sell to anybody, because I think obviously like the appeal is that it goes, it promotes Pink Boots and all of that. So you're not trying to make some off the wall fucking IPA. So
yeah, you want something that's going to work with a bunch of different yeast strains that isn't going to be too polarizing. But anywho, guys, all right, beers are up out of the way. We got one more of the business before we talk about this motherfucking movie, you guys. next Monday is the showdown episode for the lovely month of May. And if you've been following along at home, you know that our social media friends and listeners voted and they picked for us for that showdown episode the topic of space horror. A couple things off the top. We did decide, one, got to happen in space. We're not just talking about dang old space folk. We're not talking about space creatures coming to Earth. We're not talking about aliens. We're not talking about dang old space Frankensteins coming down to Earth and marching around. So this shit got to happen in space.
Yes,
my dude. It's got to happen up in the space. Second of all, we did put some Meg rails around it. And the Meg rails for this episode are, we have decided to steer clear of, we said the Aliens franchise, but really we meant Alien and Aliens. Feel free to do any of the rest of them.
Yeah.
But just no Alien, no Aliens. Because we kind of collectively agree that those are just fucking monster flicks that we that are, you know, objectively going to be really difficult to beat. That being said, your boy did take home that Son of a Bitchin' championship strap for 2 months running, I believe. So I get to pick the order in which we choose the movies. I will preface it by saying this. We always do deliver some grace and allow our guest to go first. So I will allow the guest to pick, and I don't know what the guest has picked. So I do have some backups, but I will say, we talked about this last week, but we were very vague. And I said, hey, I got a movie that I think is going to be kind of fun that I'm going to pick that's not expected. And then I've got a backup that's a little bit more expected if you listened to last week. Well, that movie that was my unexpected one, which I was feeling real strong about, I watched it again after, God, I haven't seen it in, I don't know how long. It's been at least 6 or 8 years. And I was like, this ain't that great. And I don't want to pick it. And my opinion has changed on this movie that I really thought I liked the last time. So this has taken my front runner out of the picture. So I now have my backup, which is a little bit more predictable. And then I do have a couple of backups as well. So I'm going to say, Steve, go ahead.
Do you want to reveal what that original first pick was?
Yeah, I will, because no one else is going to move. So I had I think it was more nostalgic than anything, right? And it was also like the cast a little bit, because I really like I remember thinking this was a fun, wacky cast. So the movie is from 1980, and it's called Saturn III. Have you ever, like I said, have you seen it?
But it also won, like Farrah Fawcett was nominated for Razzies for it. So
yes, she's horrible. So this is the whole thing. I thought it would be really funny, because I remember it being a fun, wacky movie that, you know, I'll cut to the chase here in a second. I was like, fun, wacky movie, but with also really funny, stupid moments that would be fun to talk about. And if I lose, I lose. Like, that's kind of what I thought. But then I watched it and I was like, no, this is kind of dog shit. And I don't know why I thought I liked it. It's got Kirk Douglas in it. It's got an old ass Kirk Douglas in it. And he's like this old, what did Meg used to call sexy old guys? I can't remember the term. Zaddy. So he's giving Zaddy vibes. Yeah. And so I thought that would be more funny, but then I watched it again and it's actually more creepy than anything. And then it's got Harvey Keitel, which is the best part of the movie. But then what I remembered of the quote unquote monster, which is a dang old like robot, I thought it was really cool, but it's not. It sucks. And Farrah Fawcett still sucks, but it's hilarious. It's still an enjoyable movie. But anyway, I watched it, and then I watched it back to back the other night with Logan's Run.
Yeah.
And I realized that a lot of the things I was thinking about were in Saturn III, were actually in Logan's Run. Like, I was like, because I was watching it, and I was like, what happened to this scene? What happened to this scene? And then I was like, am I thinking of Logan's Run? I watched Logan's Run because I watched that movie a lot as a kid.
Yeah.
And I watched it and I was like, yeah, I was thinking of Logan's Run, I think, for a lot of these cool scenes I plan to talk about, which is, of course, not really a horror movie at all. It's straight up sci-fi. So I bailed on Saturn 3. So that's my story.
Fair enough. All right. So you're gonna let our guest pick, and
I will, but I'm nervous. Because there's a big drop off for me after this. But
all right, fair enough. So our guest, who I'll remind the audience, is going to be Brian from the Drink a Beer and Play a Game podcast. But he's also like he does his own horror nerdy type shit as well on his Facebook, or not Facebook, on Twitter. So like he's pretty big on horror as well, and he gave me a list. And I asked him to narrow it down. He did include Event Horizon on his list. I was like, can't do that one, bud. We already featured it. Sorry.
Yeah.
But he gave me his first pick, and his first pick is going to be from the year 2017. It's called Life.
Yeah, okay. This is the Jake Gyllenhaal one,
yeah,
right?
Stars Jake Gyllenhaal, Ryan Reynolds, Rebecca Ferguson, and Hiroyuki Sanada. So, I have not seen this one. It didn't, I don't know, it didn't perk me when it first came out, so I haven't got to actually see it, so it'll be a first-time watch for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I have not seen it either. I know this is a Jake Gyllenhaal joint. But I'm interested to see it. All right. I'm going to pivot here. Okay.
Sure.
I'm going to pivot.
Sure.
Based on that pick, I'm going to, instead of worrying about jumping up and getting what I wanted to be my top pick, I'm going to let you go and I'm going to react. I'm going to react. And I might regret this. But I'm going to react because I have a bit of a dilemma on my hands, which I'm not going to reveal just yet.
Okay.
So you tell me what you tell me your pick, and then I will go. Yeah. And then we'll go from there.
Okay. So I was kind of in the same dilemma, and I was originally expecting to react to you, but because I don't have a react, I have to take action. And so my take action pick is to appeal to the guest.
Okay.
And he comes from the Drink a Beer and Play a Game podcast, which is about video games. And so I'm...
Oh, you prick. You're doing the fucking... I know what you're doing.
Yeah, I'm taking a shot that will be... It's not out of bounds, but it's not... I don't think it would be completely expected, but I'm going to go with an animated film from 2008, and it's called Dead Space Downfall. And it was a piece of media that was released in conjunction with the original Dead Space game. It's, I mean, relatively, it's good. I like it a lot. I've seen it before.
Yeah.
So I'm going with that.
It's been a while since I saw it, but I know it is very, I'll say, well received. Oh boy. All right. That doesn't help me. That was on my list. It wasn't necessarily the next one I was going to pick.
Yeah.
But it was on my list. And it doesn't solve my problem.
Well, that's good.
Does not solve my problem.
I will say, as Brian tries to think through what his problem is, my film does star Jim Cummings, also known as Winnie the Pooh, from Youngstown, Ohio.
That's gonna help. That's gonna help a lot. So one of the movies that I was considering picking, I have not seen yet, which is very
risky picks.
Very risky. Okay. All right. I'm gonna take a dive. This is a. I'm not gonna do a movie I've never seen before, but I haven't seen this in a while either. All right. some of the movies that I was thinking about picking don't. I found it very hard to find a lot of pure horror in space movies.
Sure, yeah.
I found it very hard to find something that is considered to be pure horror. Life, I did see people talking about that. I have not seen it. The Dead, not Dead Zone. Jesus God, Dead
Space.
What the fuck is the Dead Space? I'm going to say Dead Pool and Dead Zone. No, it's Dead Space. Have not seen that yet either. So I'm like, but that is obviously where I've played the first game. I'm going to pick a movie from 2011. Okay. And this is a bit of an out there one, but I remember liking this movie. I remember it standing out for me, but I didn't get a chance to rewatch it. I'm dropping down to my third pick. I'm doing a movie from 2011 called Apollo 18.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if you've seen this movie, but I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I'm going to do. And I actually think it's probably not the strongest movie of the ones I have remaining on my list. However, it is decidedly horror. So that is big. That is big. The other one and you might have saw this. It's called Aniara, I think. It's a Swedish movie from 2018. Okay. It's supposed to be fantastic, but I've never seen it, and I don't know if it is strictly horror. Like, I read a little bit about it without spoiling it for myself, and it doesn't seem like pure horror. So that was a tough leap of faith for me to take. I was thinking about doing Sunshine from 2007.
Same.
It doesn't feel like strictly horror.
It's not.
I know.
It's good. It's a really good movie, but it doesn't really turn into a horror until like the last, maybe the third act, I would say.
I was going to say not even that. It feels like it's the last 10 minutes. So,
it's something,
but it's a fucking great movie. But I knew you were going to attack that if I went for it. I actually thought you were going to pick that, to be honest with you.
It was on my list.
I thought you were going to pick Sunshine. Sunshine.
Depending on what you picked, I would have.
Yeah. So we're going for Apollo 18. So as a recap, boy, that was a tenuous pick, you guys. I'm stressed out. Am I going to be able to three-peat it? I'm feeling very sketched out about it, but I've not seen either of your movies. I'm going to do Apollo 18 from 2011. Brian from the Drink Beer and Play Game podcast, he's going to do Life from 2007. And then Steve is going to do Dead Space Downfall, the animated feature from 2008, which I'm excited to watch because I in my research saw a lot of people digging on that one. So
there's another one of those Dead Space movies, but I think that one's more connected to like bridging the gap between Dead Space 2 and Dead Space 3, whereas I'm pretty sure Downfall is just like a prequel to the entire thing, and you don't need to have played any of the games or anything.
Like where the infection breaks out, or the fucking space virus, whatever the fuck it is, breaks out. This was honestly one of the most challenging topics for me to find good picks for one, the reason I mentioned, which is a lot of stuff leans way more sci-fi, thriller, maybe suspense movies than it actually does pure horror, which creates a problem. And the other thing that I noticed is I actually hadn't seen a ton of the movies out there that people think of as like the big. I mean, besides Alien, like I've seen all the Aliens movies, I've seen Event Horizon, like a lot of the other ones, like there was a huge drop off from like the big tentpole horror to, B tier level stuff. Cause we'd done Event Horizon, obviously, which is like, besides Alien, that's gotta be the next up pick. Right.
It's up there. Yeah.
And then it just dropped dramatically.
Yeah, and like we've also done Screamers, and we did Life Force.
Oh yeah, and we did Screamers.
So
we did Life Force. Yeah.
This is going on in the chat right now though, but we're talking about Pitch Black, and
I couldn't do it. I couldn't willingly give myself more Vin Diesel. I'd rather die.
I know.
And also, I had a really annoying roommate in college, or not even roommate, like suite mate, in college that really liked that movie and would put it on all the time. And I'd be like, you motherfucker, I can't watch Pitch Black again.
Yeah. So that's the thing is like, I knew I couldn't pick it because I knew it would just get an automatically no from you. Our guest though, it was on his list, so he almost got it had you like picked Life ahead of him for some reason. And then but we're also talking about how like Pitch Black was also originally like the script for Alien 3. Like that was supposed to be Alien 3.
There's a couple movies that were originally potentially going to be the script for Alien 3, weirdly enough, as I was doing some research out there. And then it ended up being just like the all-time most insane fucking production hell fucking movie of all time. But in any case, all right. Let's get into not space. This ain't space. This is a dang old funny haha movie. We're going to talk about Freaky from 2020. Again, this is a listener suggestion. And this one totally just missed me when it came out a few years ago in 2020. It did come out. I think it premiered, if I read, and I'm pulling this from memory, I think it premiered at Fantastic Fest in late 2019. Pre-pandemic, and then was slated for a theatrical release, and I think got a small-scale theatrical, not even small-scale, I think it got a decent theatrical release. There's nobody's going to fucking movies, right? In 2020, at least for a period of time there when it released. So I think this movie its theatrical release, at least, was very much a victim of the pandemic. But it's directed by Christopher Landon, which we talked about real quick, I think actually before we hit record, which is the father, or I'm sorry, the son of not father, the son of Michael Landon, who is of course well known from the dad on Little House on the Prairie, as well as Bonanza. He was Little Joe in Bonanza. So comes from very much a Hollywood household.
He's a Nepo baby.
He's a dang old Nepo baby. But and you wonder how much of this is reality. But, and also like you look at the guy, okay, his dad was one of the biggest most recognizable TV stars of a fucking decade, right? He's also alarmingly good looking. Like, makes you mad. He's one of those people. It's like Ryan Reynolds. He makes you mad when you look at him because you're like, who the fuck do you think you are going to stand there being that good looking? But he is an openly gay person in Hollywood, which when he started, he's actually surprisingly been around for a second. Like, obviously this movie just came out in 2020, but like his, he goes back to when was his kind of directorial debut here, goes back to the early 2000s, right? I mean, he originally started out as a writer. Oh, even late 90s. Yeah, I was going to originally say late 90s, but I was like, does it really go that far back? But it does. Like he got his first writing credit on Another Day in Paradise in 1998. So this guy's older than he looks. So he's also looks younger than he is, which again also makes me hate him. But he goes back and his big kind of breakout, I think is probably fair to say, at least in terms of a genre film, is Disturbia. Right, he wrote the screenplay and the story for Disturbia. And then over time, mostly written, mostly known as a writer for the Paranormal Activity series, which is, of course, that franchise made a fuckload of money, like low budget, like one of the first franchises to make a shitload of money and not spend any money. Yeah. And then started getting into the whole, directorial aspect of things a little later in the career. 10 director credits, most of which, one upcoming, so really 9. Started a little bit later. TV in 2010, first kind of directorial feature-length debut. He did direct Paranormal Activity, The Marked Ones in 2014, which I've only seen the first two of those movies. They all are just fucking rinse and repeat to me, so I don't give a shit. Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse in 2015. I remember that coming out. Did not watch it. Happy Death Day. I mean, was it any good?
Yeah. It's fun. Like, so after he gets out of the Paranormal Activity films, and he does Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse, and then he does both Happy Death Day films, they all fall in line with what we see in Freaky as well, of just being like, they're just well-made horror comedies that, they play with subversion of, what we know of tropes.
Yeah, same thing here. I mean, Freaky obviously is very much that, but Happy Death Day was really the breakout from a directorial standpoint. Like, I don't know if I've heard anybody who doesn't like that movie. Really fun flick. Did the sequel Happy Death Day to You in 2019, which I don't think I've seen. And then in 2020 came back with Freaky, and then 2023 We Have a Ghost, which I have not seen, and then an upcoming project that's in pre-production called Drop that he's directing. So we'll see. I mean, obviously going on a really a great trajectory here. But this movie, like I said, was really a victim of the pandemic, as a lot of productions were, but has seemed to have found a bit of a second life on the old streaming services. And I in researching this, I was like, did something awful happen? Like, did someone get fucking, Baldwined and, on set? Or like, what happened in this movie or during this production that I just didn't hear about this movie at all? Or is it just a generic ass title? And that must have been it, because there's not really anything besides the pandemic, of course, that happened. And overall, it's like, oh yeah, this movie's pretty well received and like did pretty well in streaming, and like, didn't have a very good, had a poor theatrical release, but that's because of the pandemic. And I'm like, fuck, it just missed me.
Yeah. I think it's literally just because of the pandemic, and then like just the way it came out, I don't think it had good marketing. And then a studio is never going to put extra marketing in after a film is doing kind of bad. You know what I mean? Like, they're not going to go, oh wait, this fucked us up, let's throw more at it to try and get the money. But they're not going to do that. So they just, they released it like in November of 2020. And then it was on VOD by December 2020. And they're just like, hope for the best there. This is where you live now. Do your best.
Yeah. Right. And apparently it's found a bit of an audience there. So it stars, Kathryn Newton, who I've seen but didn't know what I knew her from. And I still kind of don't know what I know her from, because her biggest credit by far is Ant-Man and the Wasp, one of the, Marvel movies, which I certainly haven't seen. Right. Big Little Lies, which I'd rather die. Pokemon Detective Pikachu, which I would probably watch, but haven't. And I heard it was stupid, but it might be good. Sure. I like Pokemon things. Yeah. And then I haven't seen Lisa Frankenstein yet. So I'm like, what the fuck have I seen this person in? Because I have no idea. Yeah. I still have no idea.
Paranormal Activity 4.
Nope, only watched the first two. So I did not watch Halt and Catch Fire. I just don't know what I saw her in.
Yeah.
I didn't watch Lady Bird. Like I haven't seen anything. There is a movie on here called The Martial Arts Kid, which better be a parody of The Karate Kid.
You'd hope.
She was in one episode of Mad Men. Is there a realistic chance that I caught her in one episode of Mad Men? No way.
It's not possible, because that it was 10 years ago, and like she wouldn't even look this. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, she wouldn't even look the same.
She was a child, I'm sure.
Yeah. So it's funny because like I've seen, maybe it's 3 Billboards Outside of Ebbing, Missouri. Maybe you saw her in that.
Did I watch that?
I don't know. It's a good movie.
It's a Coen Brothers movie.
It's a Coen like. It's not
okay,
because it does star.
I have seen it because I had it in my head. It was a Coen Brothers movie.
Yeah, because it does star Frances McDormand and Sam Rockwell. So it's very possible.
Yeah, I did see that.
Yeah, so
that might be it.
But like, it's funny because I've seen that Ant-Man and Wasp movie, and just completely did not even fucking remember she was in it. Like, just I completely blanked that film out. But I did see Lisa Frankenstein, and that's fun. It's a fun movie. I suggest everybody go watch it. It's I think it's out on Blu-ray now and everything. And then she's also in Abigail right now, which is getting a lot of good positive reviews. So,
yeah, she seems to be on quite an upward trajectory. Same thing with Celeste O'Connor, who plays Nyla in the movie. She's in a ton of big stuff right now. Misha Osherovich, she's in a good amount of things. Like, there's a young up and coming cast, and then certainly the person who absolutely steals the fucking show is Vince Vaughn, which I'll be honest with you, and maybe this is unfair, I thought Vince Vaughn was fucking donezo. Like, I was like, last couple things I saw Vince Vaughn, like Vince Vaughn was Vince Vaughn and Will Ferrell could do no wrong when I was in college, you know what I mean? In the fucking early mid 2000s, 20 years ago, they could do no wrong. But the last couple of things I saw Vince Vaughn in, I was like, this is cringy. Like, he's just phoning it in. He looks like just the definition of a washed up, jaded comic actor that shows up for a paycheck and is like, go fuck yourself, you know? But apparently not, because he fucking does it in this movie. Like, he's honestly the 90% of the reason I like the movie, to be honest with you, probably.
Yeah. I mean, he's fucking hilarious in this film. Did you see like Dragged Across Concrete or Brawl in Cell Block 99?
No, his serious roles they tried for a second. No, I did not. I saw a couple of his like comedies from like, at some point earlier in the last middle part of the last decade, maybe, and just was like, I can't deal with any more Vince Vaughn. You know what I mean? He's just playing Vince Vaughn in every movie. And I kind of gave up on him. But
Fred Claus didn't do it for you.
Oh my God, Fred Claus. People like that movie too, but Fred Claus is unfucking bearable, and he actually tries in that movie, but it's unbearable.
Yeah.
But shame on me, because he fucking is hilarious in this movie. He brings it the entire time. So I was looking at my research. I was like, this movie. So it's called Freaky. Obviously, it is a horror slasher parody of Freaky Friday. Which I don't know the years off the top of my head, but there's the one going back to the 70s, right? And then there was the remake with Jamie Lee Curtis and Lindsay Lohan, right? Those are the other. That's who was in the more recent one in the 2000s. Anyway, this is a horror remake of that, where a victim and a serial killer do the whole Freaky Friday body mind swap, consciousness swap, whatever. Which in and of itself is like, okay, that sounds kind of cool. But then I realized they are really biting hard on the whole Friday the 13th thing, so much so that they use the same font, and they actually count down the days in the movie from like Wednesday the 11th to Thursday the 12th to Friday the 13th. And I was like, this clearly was supposed to be called Freaky Friday the 13th. And they just couldn't get it cleared, right? They couldn't get the rights to say that. And I didn't really see anything. They were like, I saw somewhere else where it was like supposed to be called something totally different. And I was like, not that they would have legally been able to call it Freaky the Friday the 13th, but that had to be the initial thought.
If you go on the Wikipedia page, that's what it says it was.
Oh, really? Oh, now I feel better about myself. No, I did not see that. I saw something else it was supposed to be titled. In any case, yeah, I mean, it's supposed to be Freaky Friday the 13th. So Vince Vaughn plays the serial killer, and Kathryn Newton, and he doesn't have a name. He's just the Butcher. Yeah, or the Blissfield Butcher, which is the name of the town they live in. So I wrote, this is called, Freaky from 2020, aka How Millie Got Her Groove Back. So this is all about this high school girl who's kind of picked on, maybe completely inexplicably, we'll talk about it, and is going through a lot of stuff. Her dad died. Her mom's, struggling with alcohol, and
her sister's
got a couple of good friends. And her sister's a fucking narc right off the bat. But also she's figuring it out. She's figuring it out. And then she is ultimately, the town is on and off terrorized by what they believe to be, at least initially, what do they call it when it's not real?
An urban legend.
Urban legend. Couldn't think of it. An urban legend, which is the Blissfield Butcher, who comes back and kills periodically or whatever. So which, as you might imagine, is played by one Mr. Vince Vaughn. We start out on Wednesday the 11th, and you get a classic, slasher movie cold open type of thing, where you get these like rich, shitty kids that are like sitting around telling each other scary stories. And they're all like very stereotypical. They're just like drunk, getting stoned, fucking doing the whole 9 yards. And they're talking about the Blissfield Butcher and like, hey, it's real. No, it's an urban legend, whatever. And there are some things, this movie, I will say, and I will give it some leeway, it does not, it's very tongue in cheek.
Yeah.
It doesn't take itself seriously. It is comedy first, horror second, but they bring the gore. Mm-hmm. They don't bring the scares. And there's never anything remotely scary, but they do have some decidedly gory scenes. The story is secondary. They're not letting too much story get in the way of the plot, right? They're just like, not letting too much plot get in the way of a good story, I guess. They're just like, let's just fucking roll forward. So they start out, and this two, like I said, high school age couples. One of them, they live in this big giant fucking astronomical mansion, right? And the dad apparently has a collection of all this old, like, tribal art and stuff. Like, these people are bajillionaires, you know what I mean? And basically, I when I first started watching, I was like, oh, this is their house, and like Vince Vaughn, the butcher, like, is one of their parents or something like that. Because I was like, who has all these creepy ass masks and ceremonial daggers and shit? But the one little of the four kids, there's one little curly headed fuck. He stumbles into the basement to steal like expensive wine, basically. And he's killed by this masked guy who just had stolen a mask off the wall, one of these like ceremonial masks. And he basically bends him over backwards over like a wine rack and shoves an entire wine bottle, cork first, down his throat, and then smashes it so it like pops out of his throat like the broken glass. And I was like, all right, this is going to be that type of movie, right? This is going to be comedic, over the top gag kills, basically.
Yeah.
Which meshes with the tone, right?
It meshes with the tone, and it is definitely doing a lot of service in this opening scene of really just like, I don't want to say biting off, but it's like definitely paying homage to Jason with, you get ridiculous kills, you get like a strong chase scene. The mask is somewhat reminiscent of, Jason's hockey mask. And then
it looks like if you gave me a bunch of clay and said make a hockey mask out of clay, I would make something that looks like that.
Yeah. And then you also get just like one of the real hallmarks of Jason is like he's always bursting through doors and windows and stuff. And you get one of those where Vince Vaughn just explodes through this glass window, and it's like, fuck yeah, dude.
Yeah.
And like, so so this opening scene, it builds like a lot of goodwill of like, we're doing good horror movie stuff. We know what a good horror movie would look like. It would look like this. And then we're going to subvert that stuff later because he switches places with a little girl.
Yeah. So it's setting him up as the and Vince Vaughn's actually a great casting choice because one, he's played serial killers before. Like we know he can get serious, right?
Mm-hmm.
But also he is just a genuinely very large guy.
Right.
Like I think he's like 6'4", 6'5". Like he's a tall, big guy, and he's like not he's not like, he's a beefy dude too. He's not like a slim guy. Like dude probably weighs 250 pounds. Like he's a big guy. Yeah. And then they have interestingly enough, they have him very like unkempt in this because he's meant to be like a psycho serial killer that like sleeps in like a warehouse kind of thing. But I could not help but think I actually met Vince Vaughn once. Like I would meet him more than once, but I did meet him. When I back in 2013, when I worked for Miller, we had a conference in, I forget if it was like Vegas or Orlando or something like that, like a warm weather thing. And we had this big and that was the year he was in a movie where Miller Lite was like really heavily featured in the movie. And I don't know what it was, but I think it was like him and Owen Wilson or something. I don't know, but it was a movie that he was in, I think it had to have released probably in 2013. And he was at this big conference that we had. And that was pretty common, big company that would bring out, there was, Ice Cube was fucking there and all the, people that were like spokespeople for the brands. And me and a guy I worked with were waiting in line for like food. And we look over and he's just standing. This is like out on a golf course. And he's just standing like 20 feet away, like under a tree, smoking a cigarette. And he looked like he was going to fucking die. Like he looked like he was going to puke. Like he was just severely hungover or strung out, or he just looked like shit. Like 5 o'clock shadow, smoking a cigarette, like flop sweats. And we were like, fuck, dude, look, it's Vince Vaughn. We were like looking over our shoulder at him, and he could tell we were looking at him. And my friend Zach, who was that I worked with at the time, walked up to him, was like, hey man, I'm a big fan, good to see you. And he was like, hey, yeah, great to see you too, blah, blah, blah. And he was nice enough. And Zach goes, hey man, would it be cool if I got a picture with you? And to his credit, he looked like he was going to fucking die.
Right.
Like he looked like he was going to puke right there. And he goes, man, I totally would. But if I do one, I'm going to have to do 100. And I have a car coming to pick me up.
Yeah.
So that's the only
Please
reason
no.
I will. And we were like, totally get it, dude. Don't worry about it. But it just like, that's what he looks like in this movie, but super pale. That's
what he looks like in this movie, but he was there as well.
Yeah, but incredibly pale and looked like he was going to puke. So I couldn't see him in this movie with the 5 o'clock shadow and the kind of bags under his eyes and stuff, because I'm trying to make him look like a disheveled serial killer. And I was like, oh, that is literally what he looked like when I saw him. But 10 plus years younger. In any case, he tears through these fucking all these teenagers. So there is one girl, he smashes her head with the toilet seat, which is just a degrading move.
Yeah, super degrading.
There's the next,
but then they do the match cut to the other girl getting banged out by her boyfriend, and it's like that like, even though they're doing a pretty good horror movie at this point, that match cut is really the telling sign of like, we're doing a funny movie too. Yeah, that's what I say. I wrote, gets her head smashed with a toilet seat, then goes to her friend doing a different type of smashing. Like they were just there, and it's like over a car. Mm-hmm. It's just like this very stereotypical thing. And then there's this like kind of chase scene that happens. The guy gets it. He breaks a tennis racket and then sticks each of the broken ends
into each side of his head, or perhaps through his ears. So it looks like he's got one of those like Steve Martin arrow through the head things, but it's a tennis racket. So it's all cartoonish kills at this point. The last remaining girl who is who lives in the house, her parents own the house. She runs and locks herself in the house. And then Steve, that's when he does the blast through the door thing. And this is my bias towards the Halloween franchise. I didn't even think about that being Jason. I thought that as being Michael from Halloween 2 when he walks through that stupid glass door, like in the slowest possible way, and then just presses against it and it explodes.
Yeah.
But yes, he just blasts through the back door. It's clearly Vince Vaughn. Like, they're not even trying to hide it. He's got a mask on, but it's very obviously Vince Vaughn. And she hides in this like secret compartment behind the wardrobe, but then does that stupid teenager thing, which is immediately pop back out the second he walks away. And the parents show up, and he had impaled her on, I think it was maybe the spear he threw through the wall.
Yeah, I think so.
He then impaled her on, or maybe, like, because he had thrown a spear at her at some point. Because again, her dad has all this weird like ancient artifacts and stuff like decorating all over the walls.
Yeah, which I think is another Friday the 13th gag as well, because I think he's either done that with a spear gun, or maybe done it with a pitchfork. And for sure done it with the machete. So like, I just think it's a recurring thing that's happened.
Yeah, I was going to say, I can think of at least 3 times where he has murdered people with all of those things. Maybe not the spear gun. The spear gun was an isolated incident, but so Vinny himself takes this like kind of ceremonial dagger, right, that he has. It's this very like ancient looking ceremonial dagger with like these little, I'm gonna say ruby looking stones in the handle. And then you jump into Thursday the 12th, and you get introduced to Millie. And then we had mentioned her sister, who's a cop, who's Charlene. They call her Char. And then their mom. And Char's the oldest sister. Like I said, she's a cop. She's trying to stop the mom from being like overprotective of Millie, basically. You learn pretty early that the dad died. It's like, remember when dad died? And they're like, yeah, that sucked. Like, it's very unceremoniously like introduced, but the dad is dead. And Char has kind of like, she's just kind of like, she's going to be the strong one for the family kind of thing. Mom's struggling, and then Millie's just being like, I'm the good kid. I'm going to stay home with mom. I'm going to go to, she's going to not go to her prom because she's going to go to a production of Wicked with her mom, and then they get the idea that mom is drinking again, because I think it's Char who opens up the trash can. There's like an empty bottle of wine in the trash can.
Yeah. And it's breakfast time.
And
it's a bottle of Chardonnay for breakfast.
Yeah. So she's been drinking. And so there's a little bit of something, a little tenuous there as well. By the way, is Blissfield the town from Gremlins, aka the town from isn't it the same town as they shot another big movie in? But when they're in that like town square, I was like, that's Gremlins. I'm pretty sure that's the same town where they've shot a lot of movies in that town. I might be totally wrong, but it looked very reminiscent of that.
Huh. I don't know.
I couldn't find anywhere in terms of where they shot it. But boy, howdy, it looked very much like that.
Yeah. I don't know.
I could be totally wrong about that. We get introduced to Millie's friends, Nyla and Josh. And then Booker is her love interest, is Millie's love interest. So that's the kind of teen gang that you're going to get introduced to. There's a villain that you get introduced to in a moment, which is has the most infuriating name I've ever heard. But Millie's dad, we said, died a year ago. And did they ever say what happened to him? I did not write it down. I don't
Not that I remember either. I don't think they ever say.
It doesn't play heavily into anything. No. I just didn't. I couldn't recall.
No, it's definitely like just more of a setup to set up the fact that like Millie's just kind of down and unconfident in herself and like depressed all the time, and then her mom's a fucking bum ass drunk. So it's just a setup that her life isn't good.
Things ain't great right now for Millie. We introduced to Ryler, and I was so infuriated by the name Ryler, which I assume is spelled Ryler. It's like Tyler and Riley mixed. Yeah. It's Ryler. I would assume that is a joke name.
It's gotta be.
But if I ever meet a kid named Ryler, I'm gonna front kick that child right in the chest. And then like this group of bullies just immediately start fucking with Millie. Like about her clothes for no reason. By the way, Millie is like extremely attractive young woman. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, so it's very unrealistic. And again, you know, you can kind of say, oh, this is like a trope. Oh, 80s movies, they just like put glasses on a person. They're like, you're not attractive. But like, it really truly feels like they're picking on her for absolutely no reason. Same with the shop teacher, which I actually saw two different names for him, because I think on IMDb his name is Mr. Fletcher, but then they call him something different at some point. I don't know, it doesn't matter that much. He's kind of a minor character, but he's a real prick.
Yeah.
And he's played by a recognizable actor. Let me see here.
He's played.
I can find him.
I forget his fucking name in Ferris
Bueller's.
Alan
Ruck.
Yeah, Alan Ruck. You'll know him specifically from Ferris Bueller's Day Off. He plays Cameron in that.
He's Cam. Yep, he's Cameron from Ferris Bueller's Day Off, but he has a Fu Manchu in this movie. Yeah. And he's great. He's great. He's great in everything he's in.
I mean,
he plays
in
a real
stuff.
Great jerk. Yes, and so actually on IMDb his name is Mr. Bernardi, but then I think it might have been on Wikipedia his name is Mr. Fletcher. I don't know, it doesn't matter at all.
Yeah.
But he's this like asshole shop teacher, right? And he's just a giant dick to Millie for no reason. Like he's just like, oh, you crying? Your dad's dead. Like he's just like such a prick to her. And he's just tearing into her. He's like, you got to present your woodworking project. And she's like, oh, you said I could do it next week. And he's like, well, too bad. Do it now, bitch.
Yeah.
Like, what? No, that's not how projects work.
Not at
but
all.
That's how it happens. Yeah. And then just as he's like berating her, he's like, everyone in the school gets a simultaneous news alert on their phone that there were killings in town and these high school kids got killed. So all this high school drama basically ensues for the next, like, I don't know, 20 minutes. It's the night of the homecoming game. Millie is the mascot of the Beavers, which is the mascot for their high school, the high school team. So at the homecoming football game, again, she's just getting teased for no reason. Like people from the crowd are like, fuck you, Millie. She's like, like there's no reason for it. It doesn't make any sense.
So
the football players are like, you're an ugly bitch. And she's like, why?
Why? Not me. I can
not me. Why me?
I can understand picking on the mascot just to pick on the mascot. That makes sense.
I know, but it's like it was during the day. It's like your dad's dead.
I know.
You bitch.
I know.
Like,
yeah.
People are just over the top.
I will say though, this mascot costume is, I swear to God, it's got to be the same costume that's used in hundreds of Beavers.
Oh, I haven't saw it yet. I've heard nothing. You were raving about it. I've heard other bunch of people were like, "This is the funniest movie I've ever seen." Like, people are obsessed with that movie.
Yeah, I swear to God, it's the same costume.
Yeah, I will have to watch. That might be a tonight watch for me. But yeah, so mom, so the game's over. She has a little heart-to-heart with Nyla and Josh, her friends, and they're like, you want to ride home? She's like, no, my mom's coming to pick me up. Don't worry about it. She'll be here any minute. Okay, so they leave, and then everyone leaves. And then the stadium clears out, and she's still sitting there on the bench. and she's calling her mom, and her mom's not picking up, and then her phone dies. And her mom never shows up. And, cut to mom. She drank another bottle of, and the wine, even a sad name for the wine, it's called Swan Song. So they show her on the show. She drank another bottle of wine and fell asleep on the couch and forgot to pick up Millie. So Millie's sitting there. She's like, fuck, what am I going to do? I don't have a phone. No one's here. So actually at that moment, before her phone dies, her sister, the cop, calls to and she's trying to explain that, oh, hey, I found mom. She drank too much, whatever. But the phone dies before she can tell her, hey, come get me at the game. But I'm like, wake up your drunk mom and ask her where she is. But anyway, they there's a delay there. So she's just sitting there on the bench, and there's a dang old murderer. Old Vinny the murderer is standing in the parking lot with his weird, fucking ceremonial mask or whatever it is, and a chase ensues pretty quickly. Nothing too special here. Millie hides under the bleachers, and Vinny is walking on top, and at this point I was like, okay, what's the connection here? Because I thought, because they were being very close-lipped about the dad, I thought we were going to learn that there was some relationship with the dad.
That's what I thought.
But
yeah.
We never got that. And then he chases her down, and they're right on the 50-yard line. And this was I had mixed feelings about this, but I thought it was a cool device. Or I thought it was a cool way of telling backstory with a really quick shot. It was really mediocre CGI, but it just was a cool way that explained a lot in a short amount of time. He chases her down, and he pulls out the magic dagger that he stole, from this old ceremonial dagger from the victim's house the night before. And he is on top of her on the right in the 50-yard line of the football field. And they do this really quick, cool shot of where you almost have an X-ray vision of the, it's imagine a drone shot from above, and you see the football stadium, and there's an quick shot of X-ray vision where you're seeing underground, and you see that right on the 50-yard line is basically the peak of kind of an ancient ceremonial, what looks like kind of a platform for some sort of it's sacrificial ceremony.
Yeah. So it's I know you're saying X-ray, but I don't want the audience to get a little confused on that. It's more that the knife is part of this, ancient ceremonial, assumedly Mayan or, Aztec,
something
sacrificial ceremony. So what you're seeing is the world melts away into showing that they're on top of an Aztec temple reenacting a sacrifice or a ritual.
Yeah.
And then, the ritual is when he stabs her with the knife, they're marked and bonded. And then that's what causes the freaky switch, which I really like this as a device as compared to just lightning. I was all right.
Yes.
He's I'm so glad that they set up the knife even earlier as well. Cause the knife is a skull with rubies in its eyes, and the rubies glow, and they call to him when he's killing the 14s at the house. So it's already, the knife has magic properties, which is a lot better than him just holding up a knife and then it electrocutes both of them with a lightning storm. And I was like, if that's what happens, I'll be so mad. But no, they built a real device that has its own goofy ass lore. And it's okay, cool.
Yeah. And that's a better way of describing it. It's because they're not seeing it, of course. It's only something that we as the audience can see. But it's almost like if the ground melted away, and you see that essentially the football field was built on top of this ancient ceremonial platform. And it just so happens that they coincidentally are laying right at the pinnacle of it. And as he stabs, as the butcher stabs Millie in the shoulder, upper torso area, they are now bonded. He immediately flinches as if he feels the pain too. He's bleeding. And then the dagger, like you said, the rubies in the dagger, the kind of eyes, if you will, on the the handle of the dagger are glowing. So at that moment, Char, the cop sister, shows up and scares him away, and is obviously pissed. They go back. He takes her to the station. The kind of processing the whole thing. She's obviously pretty pissed at her mom, and is giving her the business when they get home because she didn't. She wasn't there to pick her up, and yada yada. So she's back home after all the cop business and hospital and all this stuff. Like she's got like only minor wounds at this point. Millie is having wacky ass dreams about the whole thing. And then something happens when the clock strikes midnight. It's like a spell ensues. Something happens. You don't really know. But then in the morning, she wakes up and the whole, Freaky Friday business has happened. So they show, I thought the butcher's pad where he's hanging out is pretty hilarious.
Yeah.
Like it's the most hilariously over the top stereotypical. It's basically like an abandoned, almost looks like it's a warehouse, right? He's sleeping on a dirty mattress on the floor of a warehouse with like the windows broke out. So there's just like wind blowing in the whole thing. But then he's just got all this like stereotypical serial killer paraphernalia and like little art projects around. Like here's a mannequin with like a chicken skeleton on its head and a knife in its chest. Like there's just creepy stuff everywhere.
I feel like I could be wrong and I'm just misremembering this, but I feel like didn't Kane's character do this in the See No Evil movies? Where he just had a bunch of like mannequins where he ripped the eyes out of them and then like drove nails into
and,
their heads.
Put lipstick on them and shit. Yeah, I think you're right. Yep, I think you're right. Yeah, this is a trope you've seen before, but honestly, if you would have told me like where have you seen it before, I'd be like, I have no idea. Yeah. I think also isn't one of the Friday the 13th fan films, didn't Jason kind of live in a shack where he just had a bunch of fucking weird mannequins and tchotchkes and shit? But you don't necessarily know that he collected them, so I guess they could have been there. But
I don't even think that's the fan film. I think that's the 2009 remake. He has a bunch.
It's the 2009.
He's a fucking hoarder with a dirty toilet. Fucking.
You are right. It is the 2009 remake. It was not one of the fan films. It was the major motion picture, Friday the 13th from 2009. Anyway, there's like this kind of meth head guy shows up, and there's this whole scene of like, give me some money, and of course it's Millie in the butcher's body, so the guy's like kind of scared of him, but she's scared of the guy, and he's like, I'll suck your dick. It's like this whole like awkward exchange.
I wrote that line down just because it was funny, because like the guy's trying to buy drugs off of him, and he's like, I'll suck your dick, and he runs away, and he's like, all of it. I'll suck all of your dick.
All of it. That was the line. Yeah. The version that I watched, it was on Fubo, because I have a Fubo subscription to watch the Pirates and Vegas stuff, and they bleeped it out. So you could clearly see what he said, but yeah, it was like they did like the this is what happens when you find a stranger in the Alps type situation. Anyway, there's this whole, cut back to Millie's body, which of course is, inhabited by the butcher's, brain. And there's this whole breakfast scene where she wakes up in the morning. The mom is like really overcompensating. She feels guilty about what happens, making her this big, crazy, elaborate breakfast. She's just got this like psycho stare. She's just got this Norman Bates psycho stare that she does the entire time. And honestly, like, I kind of feel bad, because at first I was like, this, like the actor that plays Millie, I'm like, she's not really given much, but it's also, they don't give her much to do. She just does this like, she just does that psycho. She just does the psycho stare over and over and over again. Yeah. And she doesn't have a lot of lines for a long time. So, the breakfast scene's like, she gets a hold of a knife and she's like about to stab people, but it's like, it's genuinely pretty uninspiring scenes, I think. But
yeah, I think
they're not giving her much to do.
No, they don't give her much to do. But I think, one, because we haven't seen much of the Butcher, really. We've only seen him in the scene when he's just killing people. So we don't know him as a person. And so when she is embodying that, she can kind of do her own thing. The one thing she does in this scene that I like, though, is when she's eating and it goes like you can tell it's like from the perspective of a person who lives on a mattress and doesn't eat hot food regularly. So she gets that first taste of bacon and then she just starts handful just shoving food in her face. Like, that's funny. It's good, but it makes sense
like
too.
A rabid animal. Yeah. Flashback over to Millie in the Butcher's body, and she's just walking around town saying hi to people, but everyone knows what she looks like because this police sketch is like plastered up all over town. That's remarkably accurate. So everyone's freaking out when they see her. Meanwhile, the killer shows up at the high school, right? The Butcher in Millie's body shows up at the high school. And at first I'm like, what would have made this psycho killer go, I'm going to high school? You know what I mean? Or even know what high school this student went to. I don't know. It's a bit of a stretch, but it's like, this movie doesn't take itself too seriously, so it doesn't really betray the tone. But the killer shows up to high school.
It's because there's only one high school. That's what you're supposed to assume. There's only one high school
I
in
guess
town.
So, but it's not even that. It's so much so as like, okay, so he puts on a bunch of makeup and now all of a sudden Millie looks hot. And we're like, why did this serial killer that was sleeping on a dirty piss mattress know how to put on lipstick and pick out an outfit that looks great? Because all of a sudden it's
Fair
like Millie, who was kind of like the sad sack that everybody was teasing, all of a sudden shows up and she's like the sex pot, and everyone's like, oh, dang, Millie. And you're like, why would the serial killer sleeping on a dirty piss mattress know how to do all that and make himself look real sexy?
Right.
But now
she should have shown up. She should have shown up in like a ripped Cannibal Corpse t-shirt and, just like her hair up and just like no makeup, just looking like absolute dog shit.
Yeah, she's just like whatever she rolled out of bed with, you know what I mean? Why would this psychotic serial killer who like, poses, mannequins with chicken bones would know to like look sexy and do their hair on the, before school? But anyway, now a big chunk of the rest of the movie is revenge porn, right? When Millie is on the screen, or Millie's body with the Butcher's brain. She takes Ryler, who's this little, twatty girl who's like just really rude and like obsessed with social media and whatever, takes her to the locker room. And they play a little cat and mouse situation in the locker room, but Ryler's very unaware of what's happening. Millie, as the Butcher, sneaks into the school to shower in the girls' locker room because she's like, oh, I stink. And, I've been sleeping on a dirty piss mattress. So she's in there showering. She ultimately, there's a little like, hey, there's a scary guy in there. Don't worry, I'll help you. She ends up putting Ryler into the cryotherapy chamber. Which, I mean, I understand this is a rich kid's school, but cryotherapy chamber seems aggressive.
That's a lot.
But she puts it at negative 300. Like, this isn't Antonio Brown's, fucking house. You know what I mean? It's a high school still. But she smashes her into 1,000 pieces, a la, Jason X. So this is a very Friday the 13th inspired scene. But it's her entire body. She's frozen and pushes her over and smashes her everywhere. So Millie traps Nyla and Josh, he as the Butcher, and explains what happens after they do the whole like stereotypical fleeing the slasher routine, like running away, tripping, throwing things at them that isn't actually going to impede them in any way. So it's a very tongue-in-cheek thing.
Yeah. And this starts
for a long time.
Yeah. And this starts the funniest thing about this movie to me.
Yeah.
Is the way Vince Vaughn runs. Because
It's funny.
Vince Vaughn runs with his hands up like a girl, but also something about it is like very Herman Munster. Herman.
Well, he shakes his hips kind of.
Yeah.
He's trying to.
Yeah.
But he's shaped like Vince Vaughn. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's not really working that well. Yeah.
But just the way his hands are up like a T-Rex, like that's like when Herman would get excited on the Munsters, his hands would go up and shake, and it's the exact same.
Yeah, but kind of to the side. Yeah.
And it's the exact same thing when he's running. His hands are up and he's like, ooh. And it's like he's running.
Yeah.
He's obviously trying to run like a girl, but it's also just and it's just the funniest thing to catch because it's one of those character things that he doesn't draw attention to, but you can just watch it happen and just go, holy fuck, that's hilarious.
Yeah. This could have, and I'll give him a lot of credit for this. This could have been awful and so cringy when they're like, hey, 50-year-old man, act like a teenage girl. This could have been so cringy. But he really, you could tell he put some thought to it. And also he's, obviously a very naturally funny person. So he could get away with a lot as well. But this could have been so cringy. And after all this like fighting and blah, 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 and all this stuff happening, basically he convinces them by saying like, ask me questions about myself. And of course he knows all the answers, or she in the butcher's body. And then they do this little like dance. He does a dance that is like their cheer dance, and he knows it off by heart. So, and he knows their secret handshake. So this is obviously, so this is my favorite line in the movie that comes up next. Is they're like, oh my God, it is you. And there's like, they don't do it too fast, but they don't take too long. And I actually like, this could have been really an annoying part in the movie, but he convinces them that he's Millie, and they do just the right amount of convincing, because you're like, how's he going to convince them? Well, he does, but it could have been longer, but it like, they cut bait when they should have and just said, okay, they believe him, they believe him. But they're like, oh my God, it is you. And he's like, it's Vince Vaughn trying to talk like a, 17-year-old girl or whatever. And he's like, I know. So I need a friend right now. And it's like, you guys are just smashing the shit out of me. And the way he says it, because they're just like smacking him in the face with like, they're in like they're in like the cafeteria, like the kitchen of the cafeteria. Right. And like, they're smashing in the head with like baking pans, and just like it's just like a melee. And he's like, so I need a friend right now. And it's like, you guys are just smashing the shit out of me. And the way he says it, I mean, I rewound it. It was a very funny line. I was cracking up.
Yeah, he's just defeated, but like exhausted, and like they're throwing plates,
but like relieved at the same time. Yeah.
And like he front kicks that girl into the counter.
Well, that's the thing. He's trying to like be delicate, and they're fighting for their lives, Nyla and Josh. Yeah. And we should say like Nyla's obviously like a teenage girl. Josh is like, looks like he's about 5 foot tall, 100 pounds, this little squirrely kid. And then you've got Vince Vaughn, who looks like a monster compared to them. And he's literally Frankenstein. Just, they smash him with something. He's like, ow. And then he just like front kicks them 10 feet backwards. You know what I mean? And she's trying not to hurt them, but she's defending herself. And it's just this hilarious melee of like, it's like two children fighting a giant man. Again, we forgive this because it's a trope, and this feels like it's consistent with the tone. But Josh figures out the origin of the ceremonial dagger within 10 seconds of Googling it. Not even 5 seconds of Googling it.
Right.
He's like, oh, is this it? Oh yeah, hell yeah, this is it. It's called this and whatever. But the only thing is like he found it in 10 seconds, but he couldn't translate the Spanish, which is like, that's like one of the easiest things to do on a phone, but okay.
Yeah.
And then they take it to the Spanish teacher, who then explains to them that, of course, it's what it is, but also explains the rules to them, which is that it's if the sacrifice was unsuccessful, which of course it was, then the bodies are swapped. And if the ritual isn't completed, it becomes permanent after 24 hours. So now we have those rules established.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So this is the the revenge porn that plays out on both sides, really. I mean, in this instance, there was this kid who just like, again, meaninglessly picked on her, like walked past her in the hall and was like, fuck you, bitch. Just slammed her against the locker. And you're like, why'd you do that? Who are you? And there's Millie as the butcher, like smashing him up, picking him up against the wall and making him piss on himself.
which is really funny. Again, this is a testament to Vince Vaughn's like personification of this. Is like he has this kid up by his collar and he starts pissing himself. Mm-hmm. And then it reverts to like kind of a grossed out little girl of like, ooh, are you peeing? And then, like he drops the kid and is like grossed out, and again his hands go up to like protect himself from the pee.
Yeah, he was just picking him up off the ground by his collar a second ago. Yeah, so you know this was going to come, but now the dickhole teacher's going to get it. So but it's the murderer, it's the butcher in Millie's body in this instance, because so now he's used to being big and strong, and now he's like this kind of petite person, and they get in like a legit brawl. and of course he attacks Millie's body as the butcher attacks the teacher, and the teacher's like defending himself and is like very thrown off by the whole thing at once. But then once he like gets the upper hand on Millie, he just starts kicking the shit out of a child. As far as he knows, it's a student.
Yeah.
Just starts waffle stomping a student. So this guy's a prick. Like that's what you've basically been meant to believe. Which we've already established that. But then the killer gets a screwdriver, sticks it in his neck, and then just goes straight up Art the Clown, / Bone Tomahawk with the table saw, and pushes him against the table saw and splits him in half vertically.
Yeah.
With the table saw. And it is, of course, CGI special effects. There's a little bit of practical slammed in there, but it felt very CGI.
I don't know.
No?
I don't know. It felt I'd have to watch it again, but it felt pretty practical for the most part. I think like when he first hits the saw, it might be practical, but I don't know. I could be wrong about that one. I wasn't just paying
I didn't
attention.
rewatch it. It felt like a combo to me, but it felt it I don't know. I rewatch it. It didn't stick out as egregious by any means.
No.
But he does split him. It's not like I said, it's not Art the Clown or Bone Tomahawk level of like gory. You know what I mean? It's a little more cartoonish, I'll say.
Yeah.
But splits him, give him the old long way split. And then finally, the butcher and Millie come face to face with each other in each other's bodies. And the butcher, which, obviously this would be, the most difficult part, just screams and basically says like, it's the butcher, he's here, But of course, Nyla and Josh are with him. So they kind of flee together with Millie in the butcher's body. And they escape in Josh's car. And again, there's just some like really funny jokes that they're funny jokes, but they're also the delivery of them was really funny, which is like they get into the car and they're like, oh my God, what's happening? Whatever. And Josh is driving. Nyla, the other friend, is in the passenger seat. The butcher's in the back and Vince Vaughn is in the back. And he's like, all twisting around. He's like, could you move up a little bit? Like he has no leg room. Like that. The joke is that he's too tall to sit in the back seat, but he's trying to be like polite, but like kind of trying to ask her to move up to give him some leg room. Like it's just, he is naturally so funny when he tries. But like I said, I think the reason that it turned me off, like some of the, cause I grew up in high school and college watching Old School, 100 times. and he's just so effortlessly funny in that. And then it felt like, 10, 15 years later, it was like he just kind of phoning it in, but he's really hamming it up in this movie, and it goes a long way.
Yeah. And I think it's just because like they gave him something else to do other than be Vince Vaughn. Like this film,
yeah,
he's not asked to be Vince Vaughn. He's not asked to be Owen Wilson's buddy. He's asked to actually
don't just be cool guy.
Yeah, deliver a performance. So
yeah, I think the worst sign for like a good decade, the thing that really set him back was probably his biggest and most well-known movie, which is Wedding Crashers.
Mm-hmm.
Like Wedding Crashers was such a huge hit and such a like cultural phenomenon of a movie. I mean, still people use freaking Wedding Crasher memes and stuff all the time. But he played this a great undeniable character, which was just an exacerbated version of the character he's played in other movies. So like that's what Vince Vaughn does. He's kind of the suave, funny, but gets flustered and kind of unreasonable dickhead. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then like everyone after that was like, just be the guy you were in Wedding Crashers.
Do that.
For the next 10 movies, or I don't know, not 10, but you know what I mean.
Please recapture the lightning in a bottle that we had for that.
Yeah.
And it's like, I can't. I do want to point out there's another great kind of turn on slasher tropes in this scene is when they all first pile into the car. Josh is trying to start the car and it doesn't turn over. Yeah. And like, so it's a twist on that trope because like they're running from the police and it's daylight.
Yeah. The killer's already in the car, but it's not the killer. Yeah.
So it's like, it's just those little twists. But yeah, it's just a cute little thing you can notice.
Mm-hmm. And they end up taking Millie to a clothing store so that obviously, the butcher's body won't be recognizable. And it's the store that Millie's mom works at. And then, you actually get this kind of heartfelt scene where like, plus very awkward scene where like, the butcher, aka Millie, in this instance, is trying to pick out clothes, and the mom is very like desperate and like oversharing about her life and her challenges, and of course it's Millie in this like kind of handsome tall guy's body, so the mom is like interested, but it's Millie, so she's trying to like let her mom down easy and listen to her problems. But then of course she like asks her on a date, and then she's like, no, absolutely not. You know what I mean? Which is like, then she's like, oh no, I hurt my mom's feelings, but we should. Yes, absolutely. But I'm married. So it's this whole like awkward exchange through the door of the dressing room. But they do have this like heart to heart, right? So it's like I said, it's kind of she kind of comes to understand her mom's struggles a little bit more, and what's ultimately been a strain on their relationship, and the fact that she kind of is willing to open up to a stranger more than she is to her own family because she's the parent, whatever,
right? Yeah.
In any case, yeah, mom or I'm sorry, the butcher convinces in Millie's body, because it's sexy Millie now, because the butcher made her sexy. The butcher convinces. It's the only part I really don't like about the movie, to be honest with you. Why is the butcher making Millie sexy now? I don't know.
Yeah.
Is he really that diabolical? Because before he just walked around like a fucking with a mask, like a fucking creep, and smashed through doors. Like this isn't this isn't like it's Anthony Hopkins. Silence of the Lambs killer here.
No,
this is just a fucking meathead who stabs people in the neck and smashes their head in toilet seats.
Yeah, he's not doing Buffalo Bill. So
yeah,
it is weird, but it does just play into that just idea of like, it's another trope of like when the girl gets hot. She now has a bunch of confidence and she can stand up to her bullies and stuff. So it's just playing into that other trope. But yeah, it doesn't make sense. But yeah, it's forgivable. It's whatever.
Yeah, it doesn't ruin the movie.
No.
It didn't really make me that mad or anything. It doesn't bother me that much. I'm just being a pain in the ass about it. But he does convince all the cool kids, primarily like the football players, to have a party because the homecoming dance is canceled, because all the killings.
Because of
and
the murder.
So he's like, yeah. And so he's still super into murdering. So he's like, hey, let's get all the teens to one location so I can kill them. There's this scene that honestly probably didn't need to be there. And I didn't know if it was supposed to be more like climactic, but there's this like stalking scene in this like black light lit haunted house between like Josh and is getting stalked by Millie. I'm not really sure that it needed to be there, but ultimately Millie saves Booker by taking out the killer in Millie's body with a golf club because it's like mini golf there or whatever. I don't know.
It's haunted mini golf, Brian. You know the windmill.
Is the whole thing a mini golf course?
Yeah. You know the
I
windmill.
Right. The whole thing's a mini golf course. Yeah. Haunted blacklight mini golf. That thing that we all know about and frequent regularly.
There's even the little death up on the wall, and he says, "I'll tee you in hell."
All right, I do like it a lot. All right, fine, I love it.
Yes.
Yes. So they take the butcher in Millie's body home and tie him up. So it's Millie, Nyla, Millie as the butcher in the butcher's body, Nyla, Josh, and Booker. And they have the butcher tied up. And Booker wakes up and is freaking out because Booker thinks, oh, that's the killer. And the way that she convinces Booker that it's actually Millie is she doesn't read. She recites a love poem that she had put in his locker earlier that week or whatever. So she comes clean about kind of being in love with him.
Mm-hmm.
So now Booker's on board, which is, fine, whatever. Nyla ends up driving Millie and Booker to the police station. This part of the plan was a little hazy to me. It doesn't really matter because all it does is it serves to get this frankly bizarre scene where Nyla goes into the police station to talk to Char, whatever her name is. It's Charlene,
Char,
right?
Yeah,
She's
Char.
Who's of course Millie's older sister, who's a cop, to try to trick her in some capacity to try to get a hold of the ceremonial dagger that is in the evidence locker. Right. In the meantime, Booker, the love interest, and Millie in the butcher's body are left out in Josh's car.
Yeah.
They leave Josh back to babysit the butcher in Millie's body. Millie and the butcher have this big heart-to-heart, and it gets really weird. It gets weird in that she explains, like, yes, I actually do have feelings for you. And Booker's like, I do have feelings for you too. And then instead of saying like, cool, let's get through this thing and get you back into your regular body, Booker is like, is it weird that I want to kiss you right now? And the answer is yes.
Yeah.
Because I'm a teenage boy and you're like a 50-plus-year-old man. But Millie apparently finds nothing weird about this, and they literally have what is supposed to be a teenage boy making out with Vince Vaughn in the back of the car.
Yeah.
And it's funny. They do a good job of making it funny and not creepy, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still a little creepy just on premise alone. And also remarkably bold thing to put in the script, I guess, and to shoot. It's like something you put in the script, but you don't actually shoot. But they did. They really did.
Yeah, it's interesting that this did make it all the way through all the edits and everything. On the one hand, I see what you're saying of like, it's incredibly weird to set this up because essentially it does boil down to Vince Vaughn kissing what is supposed to be a teenage boy. And
a very romantic kiss too,
right,
not like a peck on the cheek. It's a very romantic, passionate kiss.
Yeah. But on the other hand, it has like kind of this nice undertone of it just kind of being like a love is love type thing, and that like
it is.
You'll love that person no matter what they look like because you love that person for who they are. But it is really weird that he is a piss smelly.
Well,
like the person you love is currently in the
assumedly
body.
Hasn't brushed his teeth in 10 years, And also the thing is too, like, it's not like they were married, not like it's a husband and wife or a married couple of 2 decades that all of a sudden we're like, oh, you're in a different body now. It's like we're high school crushes that just admitted our feelings to each other. Maybe wait for the first kiss to not be when you are a smelly old serial killer.
Yeah.
But they do. It's all a setup for a gag, of course, which is he says, well, technically it's before the kiss, though. Technically, you'd be kissing a mass murderer with yellow teeth.
Yeah,
which is a funny line. Because the thing is, it's not like it would have been creepier if it was Vince Vaughn going like, kiss me or whatever. But no, Booker's like, is it weird that I want to kiss you right now? And she's like, well, technically you'd be kissing a mass murderer with yellow teeth.
Yeah.
And he's like, I don't care. And then they make out. But here's the really funny gag is they're making out and then they kind of stop and he goes, Millie in the butcher's body goes, maybe we should wait until my hand isn't bigger than your whole face.
Yeah.
Because he like puts his hand on Booker's face, but it's Vince Vaughn's giant hand.
Yeah.
So he
just giant meat hook.
He looks so much weirder. And they do pause, and this is of course all set up for this gag, which is maybe we should wait till my hand isn't bigger than your whole face. And it's a very funny gag.
Yeah.
So meanwhile, like you said, Josh is staying back with the butcher tied up in Millie's body. This is a pretty funny, and you know what? This kid was really funny too. I didn't look who it was, but the guy who plays Josh, the mom shows up. Josh's mom shows up unexpectedly, and he's got who she assumes is Millie tied up and gagged. And she's like, what's going on here, Josh? And we should mention, we didn't, if you see it, obviously, but Josh is like extremely flamboyantly over the top gay. Like he is like, he is, what the fuck is that guy's name from a Queer Eye that like is just over the top. He's like very, yeah, he's the guy who is, he's apparently a fucking monster behind the scenes. Like he's a horrible person, but everyone loves him because he wears dresses. I don't know. Anyway, he's like flamboyantly gay, and they keep trying to come up with an excuse. And Josh is like, it's role playing, and she's like, isn't role playing like a sexual thing? And Josh is like, yeah, I didn't want to tell you this, but I'm straight. So it's this whole like build up of him like, this would have been an 80s, 90s trope of like someone covering up by coming out of the closet to their parents that they're gay. And in this instance, Josh is like coming out of the closet, but going back into the closet. He's like, I'm straight. And the mom's line was great, which is, Joshua, you are a lot of things, and straight, but straight is not one of them. And so she like immediately sees through his lie. The butcher gets loose, at that moment, chases the mom and Josh like all through the house. Meanwhile, flashback, Nyla's trying to trick Shar at the police station to get that dagger, but it doesn't work. And the butcher ends up bailing, ends up showing up and then bailing in the cop car. I don't remember how the butcher got to the police station in Millie's body. How did that happen?
How did
I
that
miss
happen?
A scene? I don't know.
How did that happen?
Did I miss a scene? It doesn't really matter.
I think she just takes Josh's car. doesn't she?
I think you're right. Yeah, and then goes inside, and then there's a whole kind of showdown thing, because then she goes in there, and then Nyla and Millie as the butcher go into the police station, and because that's why then the there's the kind of standoff between Millie as the butcher and Jar in the police station.
Yeah,
because she tries to put her in the cell, but she's horrible at being a cop, and Millie immediately gets the jump on her, just picks her up and puts her in the cell instead. So the butcher is off to the high school party in Millie's body because, she's got to go kill people, or he's got to go kill people. But the time is also almost up. So you're really reintroduced to the whole ticking clock thing at this point. The football team decides they're going to either very unceremoniously invite Millie to a foursome.
Yeah.
/gangbang, or they're just gonna rape her? I don't know. It's a rough scene.
It's rough
because he's just like, we're gonna fuck you. It's like, I forget what he says, but it's something pretty crude.
He says, "Oh, we're looking at you, and it's like you got 3 holes, and there's 3 of us."
Oh Jesus, yeah.
And it's like, oof. Yeah. And I mean, like obviously these guys they've been the villains and the bullies throughout. But they're just like straight up unmotivated bullies. They're just bullies because they're bullies.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, like, it's not that I don't believe you that the football players are bullies, because they are most of the time.
Yeah. It just felt like a big jump to that from like, but anyway, she pretty well, the butcher as Millie quickly, because then it's like, it's not really that forceful, because then they hand her a bottle of booze and like, here, you're going to want to get drunk, so we can bang. But she quickly smashes the bottle on one of them, and then cuts the other one's throat. And then I think later it reveals that they actually decapitated him with the bottle.
Well, I think,
which is difficult to do.
Well, I think she decapitates him separately, because she cuts his throat with the bottle, but then she pulls out the chainsaw, and I think she just mutilates their bodies.
Oh, I think, I forgot about, you're right, the chainsaw, because then she takes the chainsaw out and chainsaws the third kid's, crotch, basically just chainsaws his dick and general pelvic region. And then, the assumption is then she took the chainsaw to the rest of them. But another football player, the football players are just fucking demons in this. He comes on to Josh, and like takes him into another room, because he's like, hey, where's Millie? And she's like, oh, he's in here. And he comes in and like kind of forcibly starts making out with Josh, but then Josh is like, bro, get off me. And then Millie meat hooks him in the eye, the butcher as Millie meat hooks him in the eye through the door, because she also is very strong sometimes.
In this instance, it was the one time where like it was a cool, like, surprising thing, but the whole thing throughout the film has been that like Millie isn't that strong. Like, she couldn't break down the door that was between her and Josh's mom. Like, she couldn't break that door down, so she had to run away. She had a trouble with the teacher. So it's like, I don't know. Yeah. She got thrown around by the one football player before she chainsawed his pee-pee. So, I don't know. But
she can punch through the wall and meat hook somebody.
Yeah.
Anyway, the football players are dropping like flies right now. You get the showdown, and Millie tries to stab the butcher with the dagger, but the cops intervene. There's like a chase scene and whatever. There's kind of like the ultimate showdown, and then it's like, hey, the time's about to run up. We're really short on time at this point. And then there's a little bit of teamwork that happens. So like Josh, or I think Nyla, like runs the butcher down, in Millie's body, and then Josh like throws the assist of the dagger, and then as he's just about to stab her with the dagger and continue or finish the ritual. The timer goes off. This was a little bit of a weak tie through, and I didn't even mention it, which shame on me because I'm a dumbass. But earlier in the movie, Booker had given Millie a little bit of advice when she was late for class with the dickhead shop teacher that was like, "Hey, set your watch 5 minutes ahead of time, and then you won't be late." And she's like, "Oh, okay, thanks." Well, apparently she did that because they think they're out of time, but they're not actually out of time because she remembers the Booker suggested that. But also, that's not what happens with smartwatches. Like you don't set them like that. So that was why I was like, this was a little tenuous, but whatever. I get it. We all thought it was you're out of time, but you're not out of time. She does, stab the butcher, and they're like, "Oh no, did it happen? Did it not happen? Did we run out of time? Did the ritual get finished? Whatever." And then, they say something to her like, "What's your favorite football player?" or whatever. And she's like, "I hate sports," because that's a thing Millie says. So they're like, it must be her. The cops run up, and I think it's Josh.
Yeah. As
the cops run up, the butcher's standing there, and Josh is like, "Shoot that motherfucker." And the cops just listen.
Yeah.
They just empty their fucking clips into him, which I thought was funny. I assume, I guess at this point they would know what he looks like because, everyone in town knows what he looks like. But it's just funny. Josh is like, "Shoot that motherfucker." And they're like,
"Okay."
Just empty it into him. Yeah. Cops take commands from high school kids now.
Right. I mean, he technically does have a knife on him, but
yeah.
I mean, you're not supposed to shoot people like that, but it's not like cops don't do that all the time anyway. So,
yeah, it was unbelievable that he didn't turn his body cam off. That's
right.
all.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he's chatting, like they're just like chatting in the back of the ambulance. The old classic trope of sitting on the back of the ambulance, just recapping all the dangers that happened, and we're all good now. So you get Millie and Booker with the makeout scene. You get the reunion with mom and cop sister. And then you get, again, another trope of the serial killer being rushed to the hospital in the old ambulance. Now, he's faked his death in a pretty easy to figure out way. He just took the little heart monitor off his finger. And these are these EMTs are not the cream of the crop here. This is the B team because they don't even pick up on that. And so they just assume he's dead because they're like, on the way, they're like, "This guy's a real bastard." And they're like, "Well, we're going to, he might die." And they're like, "Well, we hope he dies." I don't know. I'm paraphrasing here. And then they're like, "Well, too late. He's dead." And he flatlines. And they're like, and then you look down and the heart monitor just came off his finger.
Yeah.
And I don't think it shows a flat line if the heart monitor comes off your finger. I imagine there's some sort of fail safe involved in that piece of equipment.
Probably.
Second of all, maybe before you pronounce somebody dead, check in more than one way and make that way not be just looking at a screen.
Yeah.
So it's pretty fucking stupid. But again, this is they're playing off this trope. I understand. They didn't try anything else to save him too. It's not like they pulled out the paddles or anything. They're just like, fucking dead, dickhead.
Yeah, that's
his heart stopped. He did.
Yeah, I guess that's the bigger problem with the scene is the fact that it just ends. You don't see him kill the EMTs. You don't see them if you're saying they pull out the paddles. It would be funny if somebody pulled out the paddles and then he jumps up, grabs their hands, and then puts the paddles to their head, and then you go, "Oh, okay, now he's alive," and it gives you something more than just incompetence on the EMT part.
Yeah, they didn't want to crash an ambulance, basically, is what they didn't want to do. They didn't want to add an ambulance crash to the last 5 minutes of the movie.
Too much money.
But it's guys, if Jack Frost can crash an ambulance or can fake crash an ambulance, you guys can fake crash an ambulance. So this was a little lazy, but whatever. So cut to at home, and mom, is like, you got to live your life, baby. And the sister cop is off in bed, yada, yada, yada. Millie comes around, notices the back door is open. And she's like, well, that's weird. But then she was like, well, maybe Shar left the back door open when she came in, whatever. Nope, of course, the butcher's in there. We all know this. The butcher gets the jump on her. Shar shows up and pulls a gun on her and is like, you're about to get shot, motherfucker. And then she's the gun's empty. And then he has the bullets. When did he go he snuck into her room? She was sleeping already, took her bullets out. I don't know. That's unnecessary in my mind, but
I don't know.
And then the mom comes out, wino mom to the rescue, comes from the side with the wine bottle.
Hell yeah.
With the lame duck or whatever it was.
Swan song. And swan song to the head.
Swan's lame duck, I called it. Swan song. Pounds him in the head. He does get the upper hand again. They have this like quick verbal spar. Again, he's not enough of a character to have that, but
yeah.
And then ultimately there's a callback of like earlier she gets hit in the nuts and she's like, having nuts is lame or whatever. And she kicks him in the nuts. And then Shar comes with the fucking prop chair over the back, which I thought was a little, I don't know. And then, so this whole scene, I'm like, this is all dumb. But then she does off him like a fucking vampire. Like she goes Van Helsing on him, which is kind of cool. She gets, I think it's a broken chair leg, which is of course why she came over the top of the chair, sticks it in his back, and he's like he's on his knees and he sticks in his back and he's like, ow. And then she turns around and freaking kicks it through his body and impales him, which there is nothing up until this point that would suggest that Millie could do that. So it's super stupid, but it's still cool. So whatever.
Well,
and it saves otherwise an extremely dumb scene.
Well, if you go back to the chase scene between like Nyla, Josh, and Millie as the butcher, she does front kick Nyla into the counter. So she front kicks this stake through his heart. So it's kind of,
I guess she's got some kicking abilities. I don't know. If they would have showed her playing soccer at some point, that would have made more sense.
Yeah.
Or whatever. But
yeah, it's not a strong.
Anyway,
it's not a strong
like
callback. It's not a strong callback, but you could tie it to that.
But that's it. That's the credits. So they don't linger around too long, which is great. And overall, this is the thing. When you establish yourself early on as this is a dumb movie in a fun way.
Right.
This is a dumb movie and the first kills are all silly as fuck. Then you're not expecting things to be, true to life, realistic. Mm-mm. So overall, a movie that I went in with quite low expectations and just, genuinely enjoyed. So it was a fun one.
Same. Do you think this ending though, do you think it was kind of making fun of Halloween 2018 where they have Jamie Lee Curtis and the two other, like her daughter and her granddaughter all gang up on Michael Myers? Were they kind of making fun of that?
Yeah. Or Halloween, even Halloween Ends, where they just like overkill him, and no, because they don't really do that, I guess.
Also, Ends would have come out.
Maybe
Ends would have come out after this, but this is.
That's true. This is 2020.
Yeah,
I forgot.
This is 2 years after Halloween 2018, where they all gang up on him and shut him in the basement.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. But this is like a physical melee. Like, this isn't a booby trap. We're just going to wail on you. I was almost thinking more of like, Halloween Kills, where they all just, the town just gathers around him and wails on him for a while. But yeah, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. I'll put it that way. Like, obviously there's a ton of slasher tropes in this from all different eras. So, overall, paid some homage to some slashers, and although certainly not a scary movie by any stretch of the imagination, there was some decent gore there, and it was funny. I mean, there was definitely a handful of laugh out loud moments, most of which, courtesy of Vince Vaughn. But yeah, when I saw this movie, I originally thought when you told me about it and I Googled it, I was like, oh, this is like it's so bad you have to watch it. That's honestly what I thought, because I didn't know anything about it and I hadn't even heard of it. So I was like, this must be one of those things that the studio is just trying to bury. And it's not at all. Is a very serviceable, enjoyable flick.
Yeah. One of the things I don't remember from the marketing, at least, is I don't remember them saying that this was by the director of Happy Death Day, which I feel like for some reason, I feel like if I would have known that, or if I would have seen that, I don't know why it wasn't. Maybe it was part of it and I don't remember it, but I just I didn't make that connection. And had I made that connection to the original Happy Death Day, I would probably said, oh, that's a movie I like.
I wonder if this was like just an unwise marketing decision by, whatever shitty studio. I don't even know who put this out, but if they're like, hey, they kind of don't, because Happy Death Day, although, I think it overall is, universally well received, I don't think a lot of people really know about it outside of genre fans. Whereas the original intention might have been to have a little bit more of a wider appeal for a movie with Vince Vaughn in it. I'm sure, even though he's not, necessarily at the peak of his career, I'm sure he's still asking a pretty penny.
Yeah, I mean, this came out after, I feel like a lot of people were pretty pumped on Vince after he did Brawl in Cell Block 99. But that film,
that's one of those movies where I've heard good things about, but I don't feel like anybody saw it.
I've seen it, but yeah, it's so different because it's from that's from the director of Bone Tomahawk, and that film, Brawl in Cell Block 99, is so fucking it's long, it's brutal, it's unpleasant. It has there's no levity to it at all in the entire film. So it's not one of his comedic roles, and most people would probably not like him in it.
Yeah. I need to see it. I do need to see that, because I've heard good things about it. But
I say check it out.
In any case, guys, that is Freaky from 2020. Remember, if you got suggestions for us that you want us to do on the show, we quite often will do them. So send them to us in the old DMs, in the old emails, or wherever the hell you find us on the intranets. And remember, also, as a quick reminder, next week is going to be our Showdown episode for the month of May. So let me give you a little rundown real quick before we forget. So if you have hankering to go watch the movies we're going to discuss on that Showdown before next week, you should probably go do it. Probably get at it, because you got 3 movies to watch. I'm going to talk about 2011's Apollo 18. Our guest Brian from the Drink Beer and Play Game podcast is going to talk about Life from 2007, and then Steve is going to do that old Dead Space movie, Dead Space Downfall, from 2008. So that should be fun. We have 3 movies that I get the feeling, not super widely seen. Maybe Life is probably more so because it's got some big names in it, but excited to see how, and I've never seen either of you guys' movies too. So that's always fun for me when that's the case. Okie dokie, Steve. Anything I'm forgetting? Anything we gotta talk about before we sign this bitch off?
Yeah, just a big thanks to Francesca T, who's the one who suggested us watching Freaky.
Oh, there you go. Thank you for looking that up, because I completely forgot who suggested it. Thank you, Francesca, for the suggestion. It was a lot of fun. Keep it up. Keep it up. And if you've got any suggestions, Dan just reminded me in the chat. Don't put that juju on me, Dan. He's wishing me happy dreams of Dom, my friend Dom Torino, and of course Paul Walker, R.I.P. If I dream about them tonight, this is the last episode. If you have suggestions for our follow-up, podcast project for the Patreon exclusive show, please let me know, because I got to pull the trigger here pretty dang soon, because we got but one more episode to record. Fast 10, I assume the name is of the
Fast
movie.
X.
It's the 10th one in the franchise. Fast X. Who fucking cares? And then once that's up, I'm free. You guys. And no, not Fish Piss 2 either. Although we could probably make Fish Piss 2 in about 25 minutes.
Hell yeah, buddy.
If we wanted to here this weekend. So
we make Fish
all
Piss
right.
too.
All right. The Fish
What
Piss.
are they going to do?
Now
Sue us?
I do the Now I do the fish pissing. All right, boys and ghouls, for the Halloween is Forever crew, I'm Brian.
And I'm Steve.
All right, see you later, you little fish pissers. Bye. Bye.
I'm Barry.
Psst, that's the sound of fish piss.